The Plastic Underground log, day 1646. I cut the foam. I sanded the foam. I heated the foam. I sealed the foam. I primed the foam. I painted the foam. I questioned my choices. The foam remains.
Train to the Plastic Underground. Approaching station. Please stand away from platform edge.
Welcome back to the Plastic Underground. This week I made a wall-mounted terminal from Fallout. This terminal is designed to hold my iPad so I can display stuff on here. So right now this is just kind of like the basic screen that is a cool like display. But I plan on using this for like game night, and I can put like my stuff up here because I have a tendency of like standing while we're playing, so I can use this as like my screen. I just thought it would be like a fun little cool build, and yeah, it came out pretty cool. I'm really happy with it. This is all foam. I think there's only two things that are 3D printed, and it's these brackets and these control knobs over here. But that is it, and then you don't have to 3D print them. Honestly, you could make these out of foam too. Not that the 3D print gives it like that much more stability because these don't really move. I also glued this in place, but you could also make it so this folds down like it's supposed to and fold out, but left it this way. And the other thing I did is that if I'm not keeping my, like if it's not a game night and I'm not putting my iPad in there, I also made the same screen on a piece of foam board so that I can have like a permanent display in there at all times. So obviously it looks better lit up, but it's still kind of cool. Fits on this wall. I've been putting something on this little section of this wall for like a long time, and I think that looks kind of cool. It kind of brings that retro space look into the room. So yeah, let me show you how I made this wall terminal.
All right, everybody, let's get into this build video. So I found a STL file for this terminal. People were making them small for their Raspberry Pis. I dumped the 3D file into Pepakora Designer and made a unfolded paper template of it. So that is what I am working on. I scaled this to specifically fit my iPad. It ended up being just a smidge too small, but that's okay. But yeah, I'm just using some cheap, well, they used to be cheap, floor mat foam. I buy my floor mat foam at Harbor Freight. It's like a little hardware store where I live. Man, you used to be able to buy these 4-packs. You used to be able to get them on sale for like $7, but yeah, now they're like 15. So not like terribly expensive, but comparatively, right? It's more. I like this foam though because it's cheap, it's soft, it's flat. It comes in big flat pack, so a lot of foam that you buy online has it's rolled up, obviously, to ship, and that can be annoying sometimes. But yeah, so obviously I had to cut a couple sections of this foam out to fit the full length of it. But you saw I cut the vents out, and I cut these circular parts out where the screws will go eventually. And then I connect this whole thing together with contact cement. I use Wellwood. A lot of people will use Barge. I don't have Barge locally, but I know that stuff is pretty good from what I hear. But this stuff works just as good. I put 2 coats on each side, and then when you stick it together, it glues to itself. So the reason it works so good on foam is because like the glue soaks into the pores of the foam, and then the glue basically glues to itself. That's why it's called contact cement. When it comes in contact with itself, it glues pretty permanently. So I'm just kind of making sure that I stick this seam together pretty good so that I don't have a lot of sanding on top to get rid of that seam line. So obviously it's round, but it needs to be squared. So I just kind of figure out where it has to be shaped like that. And I just kind of force it into position. I just take it in my hand and I just bend a 90-degree curve in there. And then I heat it up with my heat gun pretty good from the inside so that I don't melt the outside. So I heat up the inside a lot more. The outside, I just heat up a little bit. It's easy to burn foam, and it's not good if you burn it. It's not good for you. But it also kind of ruins the finish. So yeah, just heat it up pretty good. You can kind of tell when it's getting to that point where you can manipulate it. So I just force this 90-degree curve in here with my hands, and then as it cools, it kind of cools into its new shape. So that's one corner done, and then I do the other 4 corners. So this is some floor mat, just a scrap of floor mat foam with some 5mm foam on top. These end up being the brackets that the keyboard attaches to on the bottom. So I'm using my template here to get that angle. It kind of shows me what curved angle needs to be on this to attach to the bottom of the curve of the computer housing, just like that. So this is the control box. Basically, this goes on the right side of the terminal. This is where the 2 knobs go. Apparently, in this universe, you need a knob for the power and maybe volume. I don't know. But this is just some 5mm foam, bevel cut all the way around so that it glues together with a 90-degree curve. And then I just use a little bit of super glue to glue in the front piece. This gets like pushed back a little bit, so it's not flush to the edge. It's got a little lip. So then we can move on to a little bit of the keyboard. There's my keyboard template. This is 10mm foam. So the 10mm will be the the top part of the keyboard. So I cut out the recesses where the keys go. There are 3 of these. And then I just clean them up with my Dremel tool with a little sanding disc on it just to round out the corners better. This is like the shroud, the computer shroud. Obviously it was too big for a full sheet of foam, so I just cut that little piece off there to glue on after. I marked the center. I mark where the screws need to go. And then I can glue this on. So it really helped marking the center line. So I can line this up later. I also sanded the edge, the top edge, so that when this is glued together, it still has like a bevel. It doesn't glue flush to each other. It doesn't create a flush line. It creates a bevel. This is the same way that I always do my laser rifles. I cut the 2 lines out and then put some glue on it and then pop it down. And that creates that little like sunken section there. Using a chunk of PVC pipe that's been sanded, I use that to twist and cut out my perfect circles. These will become the screws. I heat it up with my heat gun, and then I push a Allen wrench into the foam and wait for it to cool down, and that leaves a pretty good Allen wrench impression. They weren't deep enough for my liking, so I just used my blade and followed the lines and cut out the chunk in the middle. And then I rounded off with a Dremel to make it look like it's a rounded screw. A little bit of super glue on the back. That gets glued into place. There are 4 of these all together. And then these get a little screw head too. I made these the same way, just a lot smaller. This is it's like the bottom framework basically. So floor mat foam and then 5mm the detail piece on top. And then I use different size PVC pipes here to cut out all of these circles. And then all of these chunks of circle foam, I have a little box that I keep all of these little circles in so that I can use them for screws and rivets and that kind of stuff on other projects. Yeah, I cut out the circles first because you have a bigger piece of foam, it gives you more support, and then you can go after and cut out the full shape. And that is one, and there's another one, and then this is the middle bracket. Reminds me of like a bridge, and it's what it does. It bridges the 2 frame pieces together on the bottom. And this is not sturdy at all because it doesn't need to be. these little pieces of 10mm foam get glued on the top. That's the part that actually glues onto the bottom of the housing. So marking the back so that I can cut out a section there for the back. I kind of drew the shape of my iPad on the side, and then I slide that into place just to kind of figure out where it needs to be. And then I put this piece inside with the iPad just to see where everything lined up. So this piece can become like the inner frame for the iPad. I wanted it to be flush. It probably could have been a thinner piece of foam for this section here. Now I'm just kind of figuring out like the inside, like where I need supports to hold this in place. The last thing I want is for that to fall out of here. So I add like a center backing support, and then I also add a piece on the bottom so that it can slide in and just rest on foam, and then that bigger square piece of foam holds it from the back. So it slides in there pretty good, and it's pretty snug. And then after all of that is done, the framework from the inside for the iPad, I can glue the back housing piece in. Yeah, and then the frame piece can get glued onto the bottom. I line that back piece up to the back edge of the computer frame, basically. And just make sure that they're parallel. Then the little keyboard supports get glued on here. Then the little control box gets glued on the side. Then getting back to the keyboard here, I glue a piece of 5mm onto some floor mat foam. And then that chunk of 10mm that we cut out before gets glued on top of that. So basically this is like 25mm thick. The reason I did that is just to bulk it up, and then it also gives you that recess spot for the keys. Now the keys are the most annoying part of this build. I would like work on other stuff, and then I would sand a few of these here and there, because they really make your hand cramp up. And I probably could have done this better too. I could have made these more flat. By making that top piece 10mm, these had to be 15 to be higher. So I could have made these flatter, probably more like a laptop keyboard, but I don't know. There's a lot of different reference images, and yeah, I don't know. I'm happy with how it turned out. But you could have done it a little better. But you can see all these little rectangles and squares, and then they all have to be sanded. The corners all have to be rounded, and the top all has to be rounded out too. These ones was a lot easier, but these small ones, you can see the shape that my hand is in, and then constantly rotating them. Yeah, it hurt. It hurt after a while, and there was like something crazy, like I don't know, maybe I think there was like 187 sounds right in my brain. Yeah, a lot. There was a lot. And then I just super glue those all in place. Again, I kind of eyeballed this just because I didn't want to draw out every single circle. I didn't want to cut every single square out of foam to mark it. So I just kind of made sure they all fit, super glued them in place. And then I round out all the corners. And then the keyboard was a little too wide to fit how I wanted it to fit, so I cut out these half circles. And I glued those in place there on the keyboard. Added these are some of the chunks that I cut out with the PVC pipe, so that those brackets will slide over that. So Plasti-Dip, gray primer, and then a dark gloss gray was really all I did for painting. Drew my iPad onto some foam core, marked the inside where the screen needs to be, and cut that out, and then painted it dark green. Painted with a brush first. Knew that wasn't going to look great even if I put multiple coats on. Plus I also wanted the edge to be darker and the center to be brighter. So just using my airbrush and just kind of airbrushing the screen till I'm happy with it. So use my vinyl cutter, and I cut out all of these letters. Yeah. So I wrote this up. I wanted this to be like the computer for the shop, so it gives you like a basic Robco Industries designation Plastic Underground Workshop, which is just fun. I added a couple things. It's basically like a workshop system check. So there's some fun stuff on there, like 3D printers standing by, like filament and resin storage low. Just some fun stuff in there. Ventilation system ready. I just thought that was it'd be kind of fun to do that, make it themed more towards like the workshop. And then I can slide that in, see how it looks. Then I can paint the keys on the keyboards. This one I paint like a pastel orange. These are white, but with a little bit of yellow mixed in. And then the rest are pure white. And it really doesn't matter because they're gonna get weathered and they all kind of blend in anyway. So yeah, it didn't really matter. You could have painted these all white and weathered it, and it would have been the same. But I know they're different colors, and you know they're different colors, so there. The rectangle ones, I painted a different color too, and then all of the little squares, keys, I painted more white, like bright white. So I mean, even on camera, you can't tell that they're a different shade, but they are. I mixed up some dark gray and just used my chip brush to just add chips. I tried to look at references like from the game of like how these are chipped. In my brain, I thought these were like silver and like chrome, not chrome, but like metal, and like obviously they are metal, but they're you can see like the primer underneath the paint more than like metal wear marks and that kind of stuff. So that's what I did. I just I added some darker paint to make it look like it was primed first with a dark gray. And then I went around and I painted all of the screws with a gunmetal color, just to give it a little bit of metal in there. And then I hot glue these knobs in. These knobs I 3D printed in resin and spray painted them silver. And then I just hot glued those into place. And then I go through and I weather everything with some dirty brown, watered down paint, like really watered down paint. This is what makes it look like it's 200 years old and just dusty, just dirty. So I just brush that on, and then I just dab it off with my dirty rag. Make sure that you get the paint like in all the recesses, and then you just kind of hit the high spots. And then you can see how the keyboard clips on to those little brackets I made. And then I just hot glued those in place. I wanted the keyboard to be more fixed permanently than be able to move. I also couldn't really think of like a good like locking mechanism. You probably could 3D print like a gear that like a tension gear. So when you pull it out all the way, it like locks in. But I already spent a lot of time on this project, and I just wanted it to be done. So I have like an extension bit on my drill. I mark 2 holes through the back, and then I drill those holes a little bigger to put in these wall anchors. Then I use the wall anchor screw with a washer on it. And then you can see that's what it looks like on the inside. And then when you screw those into the anchor, it compresses into the foam, and the washer helps the screw head not just pull straight through the foam. It spreads out the weight a little bit. And this thing's not heavy at all, but I wanted it to be anchored into the wall for when I put my iPad up there. And that is it, you guys. That's how I made a wall terminal from Fallout in my game room in the basement. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you next week when we make something cool.